I was very excited for Sonic Frontiers. I wanted a proper 3D platformer. I wanted Sonic to come into the 3D age, and in the past, it was more of a times trials type of game. It was speed from point A to point B, and you sort of missed the platforming, you missed the exploration, and then games like Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, even Mario, they perfected the 3D platformer in an open world space, and you had exploration, and you had things to do other than just rush through the level, and I always wanted Sonic to be that, and it feels like they're on the cusp of doing that, but all the steps that they take forward, they still rely on that old school point A to point B Sonic. It feels like that they wanted to go all out, but then they got afraid and they put back in these time trial levels just to give you both, and they never really take that step. This open world, I love this idea, and you wouldn't think that it works, but it does. All these little things throughout the world that allow Sonic to still be Sonic and, you know, use that hypersonic speed and all of those moves, but then it slows down and gives you some platforming. Now, there's not enough of that slowed down platforming, and that's where I think they got afraid. But there are some things that carry over from those time trials, old school janky Sonic combat, and in a 3D open space, you need really precise controls when you're platforming and you're fighting, and that's where it suffers a bit. This battle here, for instance, the camera and the lock-on, it's all over the place. You can tell that they're sort of experimenting with Sonic in a 3D open world with combat, as opposed to just, you know, rushing through a level, tapping the B button to lock onto things and stuff like that. But I feel like there's enough here that if it does well, if this game does well, they can refine it, because there's just something great about Sonic in an open world and exploring. Now, you have a choice between a 4K mode and a 60 frames per second mode, and I'm not one of these people that's really, you know, super into it has to be native 4K or it has to be a locked 60 frames per second. But with games like shooters, Twitch-based games, and even games built around speed, and of course we're talking about Sonic, I tried both modes, and the 60 frames per second mode makes the game much, much, much better. You can also increase the speed of Sonic. You start off sort of, it feels like Sonic's a bit slow, but they do that because you have all of these other things to do in this open world. And when you turn up that speed in the options menu, yes, Sonic is incredibly fast, but you miss so much. So I think starting out at the level that they give you is probably recommended. Graphically, I think there are times that the game is absolutely beautiful when the sun is rising or setting, the reflections and just some of the artwork is beautiful, but then there are times where it's just what is happening. There's so much popping in the game. I mean, when you're moving throughout the level, literal, I'm not talking about trees popping in. I'm talking about total geometry in the game just popping in front of you. And sometimes platforms that you need to land on aren't there until you get close to them. They pop in. So it just makes it that much more difficult when it comes to the platforming. And I think that, you know, with the strength of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and their SSDs, I think it's just an optimization issue. And I feel like maybe with a patch, some of this stuff could be taken care of. But I do feel like this is a really great first step into giving me what I always wanted, and that's that, you know, you remember Sonic CD and watching that intro, Sonic Boom, and Sonic's running through, it was a CG animated intro, but this feels like that. We've finally gotten to that place where you can have an open world and explore. They just need to refine the gameplay in between those, you know, hyper fast moments or those time trials. You have to use those time trials to get keys to unlock areas. So, you know, you are forced into those old Sonic speed days, those time trials. And if you like that, that's great. But this is all about opening up the world and bringing Sonic into this generation's type of games. You need story, open world, you need things to do. And I feel like they are really, really onto something here with this, because when it clicks, it works really, really well. And like I said, they're just those, you know, control refinements that are needed, and some more meat in between the exploration, some more platforming that's slowed down a bit. And I know people don't want to hear that, but, you know, Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank perfected that, Mario, you can have these speed moments and these time trials, but there needs to be a bit more in between this open world when it comes to just proper 3D platforming. So all in all, I think it's a great first step for Sonic in an open world, bringing Sonic to, this age of platformers. And I feel like if the game does well, and I hope that it does, because it is really cool just to explore in an open world with this character. You've never done it before, and it just feels great when the controls work and when you're zipping around or you're slowing down or you're exploring. I feel like, again, this is their best foot forward, and hopefully it does well, because I could see this game being refined and the next game hopefully being really, really great. I think it's worth a shot. I think it's worth your time. I'm enjoying myself, even with all the issues that I talked about. If you're playing the game, let me know what you think about this first foray into the 3D open world for Sonic. And if you're not, let me know why you didn't pick it up. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.